I Am Duran, My Autobiography by Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran was a legendary boxing champion who was world champion in 4 different weight classes: lightweight, welterweight, light middleweight, and middleweight. His nickname was Manos de Piedra, meaning hands of stone. This is not some frivolous nickname. According to those he fought, his hands were really like stone. His punches were like sledgehammers striking a concrete pavement. And that pavement happened to be men's faces or ribs or a stomach. Duran is from Panama. He grew up in abject poverty. He was a man of the streets, sometimes not returning home for weeks. He shined shoes. He sold newspapers to support his family. In Panama, a nickname for the street kids is Paleo, and that's what he was known as. At the beginning of the book, Duran says, "I am a child of the streets. My neighbors were thieves, whores, and murderers. My father wasn't around, and I never made it past 3rd grade. I still don't read or write much, but I know what poverty is because my childhood sucked. Mierda. Shit." He said his first amateur fight was at the age of 13. His amateur record was 29 wins and 3 losses, although those may not be the exact figures. He turned pro at the age of 16 in 1968. And by the age of 21, he was lightweight champ, beating Ken Buchanan. Duran was a vicious fighter. His intentions were to seek and destroy. He was Mike Tyson before there was a Mike Tyson. Duran was brutal. He was ruthless. After the championship fight, the party began. He rode on the Panamanian presidential plane. He stayed at the presidential palace. He was the hero of the Panamanian people, too. He was their hero. When he fought, he represented Panama. He was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When he was out of the ring, he was a nice guy. He loved his family. He was generous with others. One night, during his prime, he gave away as much as $5,000 in an hour. People lined up at his door asking for money for rent, college, hospital bills, and he gave it to them. But when he would fight, he was a beast, a monster. His mission was to kill the man in front of him. It wasn't until Sugar Ray Leonard came along that Duran's life was shaken. Their first fight was in 1980. The Brawl in Montreal, it was called. At the press conference, Duran got into Sugar Ray's head. He would insult his manhood, his wife, called his mother a whore. He would use this intimidation tactic on everyone. And it worked on Sugar Ray, as it did on many others. Sugar Ray thought he was facing a big name on the downside of his career. He thought wrong. Duran hated Leonard. People were saying Leonard was a smart fighter and Duran was a club fighter. But Duran trained extra hard for this fight. And Duran beat Leonard. He beat Leonard so bad that Leonard had to push his teeth back into his head. Leonard said every punch felt like bricks. And Duran won the fight by decision and won the WBC World Welterweight title. Leonard was undefeated until Duran came along. And when Duran returned to Panama, he was a celebrity. There was a ticker tape parade for him. Everybody loved him. Duran was the most famous man in Panama. The president declared it Roberto Duran Day, and nearly 2 million people celebrated. He lived large as well. He had lions and tigers in his yard. He gave people lots of money. He partied hard. Duran said, night after night, we partied until everything was just one big haze. He drank too much. He ate too much. He did everything he shouldn't do. Sugar Ray Leonard saw this, and he was watching with the eye of a tiger, so to speak. He knew Duran would overindulge himself. So he wanted to fight him as soon as possible and get the rematch. And Sugar Ray was right. Duran ballooned up to 230 pounds. The rematch was to pay $8 million. Duran had to fight Leonard within a month. But Duran kept partying. He said, I never felt bad for what I did then. It was horrendous. All the self-discipline that I'd maintained deserted me after I beat Leonard. I've got 2 world titles, I said to myself. I've got money. I've got fame. I just want to relax. And Duran had to lose 50 pounds in a month. So he had to take diuretics. He had to do a lot of sweating, starvation, and so forth. Now, Sugar Ray Leonard basically played Duran against himself. He also saw that Duran was slower at the heavier weight. Leonard was smart about how he would approach the fight, and it paid off. The second fight took place on March 25th, 1980 in New Orleans. In the book, Duran says, when the bell rang, Leonard was bouncing, dancing around from the start. This was a different Leonard from the first fight. Boxing this time, not flat-footed as he had been before. He had done his homework. During the 6th, Leonard went back to dancing, and in the 7th round, he began acting like a clown, moving his head back and forth, taunting me, and doing the Ali shuffle. By the 8th round, Duran had had enough. He said, in the 8th, my arms were weak. My body was weak. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe properly. I backed off and waved my right hand. Leonard hit me a few times, but I kept motioning to the referee that I didn't want to fight. Duran said, no mas, and he quit. Duran said he's a proud man and an impulsive man. He said, I'd let my emotions get the better of me. I didn't know it would haunt me for the rest of my life. This was a big deal, no mas, because he just quit in the middle of a round, in the middle of a fight. And even in Panama, Duran was called a coward. His country abandoned him. This time he got no hero's welcome, no ride on the presidential plane. Everybody made fun of him. He said that he and his family were treated like shit. He was fined by the State Boxing Commission for $75,000. His friends abandoned him. The World Boxing Hall of Fame revoked his honorary membership. And on top of this, he had serious money issues. So in 1981, Duran made a comeback, but he was losing to second-rate fighters. Many people dropped him. Don King even dropped him, which is no surprise to me. 3 years later, though, Duran was champ again at the age of 33. When he returned to Panama, people celebrated his success. It was like before. But in Duran's mind, he thought all those people were hypocrites and two-faced. During his comeback, Duran fought Marvin Hagler and lost the decision, and then got knocked out by Thomas Hearns. This was the first time Duran had ever been knocked out. And Thomas Hearns was called Tommy the Hitman Hearns for a reason. When he was 37, Duran became WBC middleweight world champion, beating Iran Barkley. Many people thought Duran would lose, but he became champ for the 4th time. Once again, he was a Panamanian hero. And in 1989, Duran fought Sugar Ray Leonard again, but lost by decision. On his 49th birthday, Duran won his 5th world championship. Around this time, he retired. Just some other mentions. Roberto Duran was in Rocky II as Rocky's sparring partner, and in the movie Harlem Nights. He also had a small part in Miami Vice. In addition to this, he has a band. He makes music. So that's all I had to say about this. There's a lot in the book. You should read it for yourself. And even watch the fights. That's what I did. I watched the Leonard and Duran fights. I watched both of them, the 1 and 2. The third one I'm not really interested in. But the first one and the second one were just simply amazing. I've also seen a few documentaries on Roberto Duran. If you're a boxing fan, you definitely have to watch those videos. Thank you very much. Talk to you later. Bye.